Blind Black Boy Asked to Play, Just for Fun by Famous Pianist. What happens next will shock you. She thought she was invisible, just another face in the crowd. One wrong look, one careless word, and suddenly the world around her shifted. People she trusted turned away, laughter froze in the air, and a single moment threatened to change everything she believed about safety, fairness, and justice. How could something so ordinary become a moment of fear she would never forget? What unfolded in the next few minutes would expose a truth far bigger than her own story, a truth about the injustice that still hides in plain sight. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, and Maya was already running late for her shift at the local diner. She moved through the streets she knew so well, the corner shop, the old oak tree, the faded mural on the brick wall, and yet everything felt strangely heavier that day. People passed by with their usual indifference, and Maya, used to blending in, kept her head down, focused on making it through another day. She had a routine, a rhythm to her life. Serve customers with a smile, go home, check on her little brother, and finally breathe. On the surface, it looked ordinary. But beneath it, there was a constant vigilance, a carefulness forced upon her by a world that often judged her before she spoke, saw her before she acted. As she pushed open the diner's door, the bell jingled, and she felt a familiar knot tighten in her chest. Something was different today. A glance from a stranger, a whisper across the counter. It all felt off, but she couldn't pinpoint why. Maya's life, steady and predictable for so long, was about to collide with an injustice she had tried to ignore, a moment that would test everything she thought she knew about fairness, trust, and safety. The diner was buzzing with the usual morning crowd, but Maya couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in her chest. Every clatter of dishes, every laugh, every shout of a customer calling out their order seemed amplified, sharper, heavier. She tried to focus on her tasks, pouring coffee, taking orders, moving with practiced efficiency, but something kept tugging at the edges of her attention. It started subtly. A customer's glance lingered too long, their eyes flicking over her. Uniform over her skin, a silent measurement she hadn't asked for. Maya forced a smile, hoping it would dissolve the discomfort, but the weight of judgment didn't lift. Then came the comments, small at first, masked as jokes. "You sure you know how to handle this?" one man said, tossing his napkin onto the counter with a smirk. She blinked, stunned, and smiled stiffly, muttering a polite, "Yes, sir." But inside her stomach twisted. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a test she hadn't agreed to take. As the morning wore on, the tone grew sharper. Another customer leaned across the counter, voice low, dripping with condescension. "Maybe someone else should handle this. Don't want to make a mess, do we?" The diner seemed to shrink around her, the chatter fading into a low hum, leaving only the weight of his words pressing down. Colleagues exchanged glances, unsure where to stand, and Maya felt the sting of isolation. By mid-morning, the tension escalated into something she couldn't ignore. A manager, someone she had trusted, pulled her aside. His face was neutral, but his words were anything but. "We've had complaints," he said, glancing at the floor. "Some customers don't feel comfortable." Maya's heart raced. She knew what "don't feel comfortable" really meant. She swallowed hard, the words catching in her throat. "What should I do?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. The silence that followed was deafening. Outside the window, the world went on, oblivious to the storm inside. Each order she served felt heavier, each smile she forced more fragile. The injustice wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, insidious, creeping into every moment, every interaction. She began to question herself, her place in this world, the safety she thought she had taken for granted. And then it happened, the moment she had dreaded but hadn't fully anticipated. A customer slammed their cup down on the counter, glaring at her, their voice cutting through the diner like a blade. "I don't want you serving me. Get someone else." Gasps echoed around the room. Time seemed to slow. Maya froze, unsure whether to retreat, to argue, or simply disappear. But deep down, she knew this confrontation wasn't just personal. It was a glimpse of a larger truth, a reminder of a society that judged before it understood. The diner fell into a tense silence. Maya stood frozen, the cup trembling in her hands as the customer's glare pierced her like a blade. The world outside seemed distant, irrelevant. Every sound, clinking dishes, hushed murmurs, the ticking of the wall clock, felt magnified, each one a drumbeat counting down to an inevitable. "Confrontation! Get someone else!" The man barked again, his voice sharp and unyielding. The manager hovered, hesitating, unwilling to defend her. Colleagues exchanged uneasy glances, their silence louder than words. Maya's heart pounded. She felt the weight of every judgment, every assumption, every moment society had told her she was less than, simply for existing in her skin. A flicker of anger surged, hot and raw, but so did fear. She knew how easily moments like this could spiral, how quickly a routine day could become a headline, a warning, a label. Her mind raced, torn between retreat and resistance, each option carrying its own risk. The diner's lights seemed too bright, the walls too close. Every nerve in her body screamed, telling her to run, to hide, to disappear. And then, something shifted. A calm, sharp clarity cut through the storm in her chest. She straightened, voice steady but carrying the weight of every insult, every injustice. "I am serving you because it's my job. Your comfort does not erase my right to exist here." The words hung in the air, heavier than any scream or plea. The room seemed to hold its breath. Faces turned, some shocked, some uncertain. The customer's anger faltered, just enough to leave a crack in his certainty. For the first time that day, Maya realized she wasn't invisible. She was seen, and not because of fear, but because she had dared to assert her presence. The tension in the diner didn't vanish, but a door had opened. A possibility had emerged. And as she braced for what would come next, one question lingered. How would the world respond when confronted with the truth she had just spoken? The tension in the diner slowly lifted, but the echoes of what had just happened lingered long after Maya returned to her tasks. The customer eventually stormed out, leaving behind a silence that was both heavy and strangely liberating. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to breathe, to feel the weight of her fear and anger, and to recognize the strength it had taken just to stand her ground. Maya realized that this moment, painful as it had been, was not only a confrontation with one individual. It was a reflection of a system that often judged, dismissed, or devalued people based on the color of their skin. She had been forced into a spotlight she never wanted, but in facing it, she discovered a resilience she hadn't known existed. The experience left scars, yes, but also a quiet determination to exist boldly, to speak clearly, to refuse invisibility. Outside, the world moved on as if nothing had happened, but for Maya, and for anyone who had witnessed or shared in the moment, something had shifted. The story she lived that morning was not unique. Countless others faced similar injustices every day. Yet her response, her refusal to shrink, carried a message. Acknowledgement, courage, and dignity can ripple far beyond a single encounter. And, as she stepped back into the streets, Maya carried a question that would stay with her, one meant for all of us. How many more moments of silence, of unseen struggle, will it take before society truly listens? The answer isn't easy, but one thing is clear: change begins when we refuse to look away.